Okay, let's give this another shot. Hello, everyone. Hope everyone's doing well tonight, or whenever it is that you're listening to this. Night, day, evening, early morning, whatever it is. Um, Hope everyone's doing all right. In case I haven't posted any other episodes before this one, it's very possible, just based on prior audio testing, that this could actually be the first one that ends up going up. But welcome, if you're listening. Really, really appreciate it. So, my name's Kanen. In case any of you don't know me, if anyone is listening, odds are it's probably because you know me in some way or another. Um, what is it that I'm doing here? Not exactly sure yet, but I've been fiddling around with the idea of doing some sort of like podcast type um, podcast type show situation, whatever you want to call it, for probably about the last month or so at this point. Um, I don't, it's tough to even consider myself doing podcasts, honestly. I don't like to consider myself, I wouldn't consider myself a podcaster. Technically, all that it takes to be a podcaster is to record yourself, at the very least, just audio, um, non-scripted usually, and just talking for a while, and then eventually just calling it a wrap. So obviously, based on what I'm doing here, that's something that could be used. But I've never been too crazy about just going ahead and using just labeling myself with basically anything. I really just see myself as a guy who just likes doing different things. Like I like experimenting with certain things here and there. Maybe it's something that I'll take to, maybe it's something I won't. But I would at the very least like to believe that I'm willing to try something at the very least once before I decide that it's not a good fit in general. Um, I have, for anyone who knows me, just in general, they probably are familiar with the fact that people have typically they've gone and complimented my speaking voice every now and then, which I appreciate. It's always nice to hear, even if I myself might struggle with actually accepting compliments on that every now and then. Um, I get enough people pointing out that my voice can be soothing or whatever it is, or sounds like it'd be good for like some sort of like radio show, announcing, narrating, something like that, broadcasting. Even I've gotten that too, and again, like all that for me, it's always struck as just like kind of flattering, I want to say, but nothing that I've ever really considered actually doing for any type of like actual work, or even if it's just recreational or something. I don't know why. Rather, no, I can say I do know why. It's always been more of like a lack of confidence type thing on my part. Um, like I've grown up listening to people speak and watching them speak and just seeing how they present themselves and stuff. And I don't know, like I've never really seen myself as one who could do something similar. But at the same time, especially nowadays, I've been trying to get myself beyond the point of caring too much about what others have to say about the stuff that I do. Um, I want to more so live my life in a way where I can just do the stuff that I would like to do, even if it's just experimental, and just go for it without putting too much thought into it. Now, again, for anyone who knows me, the idea of not putting a whole lot of thought into even just the slightest things might not seem like something that I'm really capable of. I don't know. Maybe it's just a me thing, but I it's easy enough for me to be able to say that like I do worry about quite a bit, just even like the most basic things. Like it could just be as simple as just like, hey, I don't know what to make for breakfast this morning. And then I start thinking so hard about like, okay, well, I have this, I don't have this, I could go and get this, but do I actually want to go and get this? That would mean running here, that would mean I have to do this, do that, do I have the time? Like I can make, I guess the saying is, don't you can make a mountain out of a molehill, something like that, like, or don't make a mountain out of a whole molehill. Like that's something that I tend to do with even just like the slightest thoughts. I can just like it's like a snowball effect, like it'll turn into like something major. So all that to say, when it comes to something that involves putting myself out there in any type of way, I've always kind of questioned whether or not it's something that I should experiment with. But rather than continuing to question it, I kind of just want to give it a shot, see what happens. Um, yeah, of course, like part of it is going to be like, okay, well, I'll see what people think when it actually comes to that sort of thing. But at the same time, I don't want to think too hard about that point. Might have just heard a beep in the background there. Yeah, that's just my laptop. I realized it wasn't plugged in. Now it's plugged in just so that this doesn't die on me as I'm recording it, just to be on the safe side. But yeah, yeah, yeah. So again, like I am feeling experimental right now. Start of the month. Right now it's September 25th, time of this recording. Whenever this goes up, I have no idea. Where it goes up, I also have no idea. That I'll figure out as I go along. But yeah, September 25th, 2025. Few weeks ago, at the very start of the month, like I had started messing around, maybe even end of August, I don't remember. But I'd started messing around with the idea of doing these types of things where I kind of just sit down, just talk about stuff, like whatever comes to my mind, whatever I feel like talking about. It could be my interest in video games, it could be movies, it could be the music that I play. And I think that that's something that I kind of want to focus on for this one, just to start somewhere. Anyone who knows me well at the very least, or has known me for a while, knows that I've been doing at least something with music for the bulk of my life at this point. Like close to 20 years or so, I've been playing some form of music. And yeah, I kind of wanted to just talk about that, like reflect a little bit on my musical upbringing before going into basically anything else. Um, yeah, yeah. So may as well just get into it. So to flash back a little bit, or I say a little bit, flashback all the way to when I was a kid. Music has always been something that I've taken to, well, like mainly just like recreational listening and stuff like that. But I've always had a fascination with that sort of thing. It's tough for me to pinpoint favorites with basically anything in my life, music included. So I can never really say that even from like a young age, I had like a favorite song, favorite artist, or something like that, favorite style of music. I've always just been one who's like willing to listen to anything that sounds good to me. And that's not going to rule out basically that's not gonna I'm not going to exclude a whole lot from that, like just whatever it is, but it's not going to include everything for sure. Like there are certain aspects of music, whether it's certain instruments, certain styles, certain eras of music, even that I'm just not interested in listening to, so I won't. But for anything else, like as long as it's something that like is able to like just strike some kind of chord with me, I'm not going to turn it away. So that's why I'm like I can't. I've never been one to just be like, okay, yeah, jazz is my favorite style because it's like, okay, well, jazz can be broken down into so many different things, so I can't just say that. Or even if I get specific, I'm not going to say like prog rock or whatever is like my favorite because I like some of it, I don't like some of it. Same thing with any other genre and stuff. So that's why like, and that goes back to when I was really young. But no one in my family, I don't think that anyone in my immediate family, I want to say my parents, and then at the time, just my older siblings, no one had really done anything with music during my lifetime that I explicitly remembered. I know that my mom, she used to do music when she was young, but that had stopped kind of by the time that I was born, so I never had music like direct music influence in my family or something like that. Not for a while. Like everyone in the house would love music. My older siblings did play around with like violin and viola from what I remember when they were young. That didn't stick. My sister played the oboe very briefly. That didn't stick. By the time that I was in fourth grade, I remember I wanted to play the trumpet. And the only reason I wanted to play the trumpet was because I knew what a trumpet was and looked like. I knew I was kind of a silly kid. I knew what a bunch of instruments were called, but I didn't really know what they were or know what they looked like even. So like I knew, for example, what a flute was, but in my mind I would picture when I would picture a flute, I would think of more of like a recorder or something like that. I would know what the clarinet was because Squidward from SpongeBob played the clarinet, quote unquote. I, I hear it all the time um, from like friends, colleagues, coworkers. They're like, "Oh, I played the clarinet when I was young because Squidward played it. I wanted to be like Squidward," and I was always just like, Squidward kind of sucks at the clarinet. Like, is that really is that really your inspiration right there? But it's like it's always so funny to me, like because it never as a kid I was never like, wow, I want to play the clarinet because of him. I was like, oh, I should probably stay away from the clarinet because of Squidward. Um, jump ahead. I actually do play the clarinet now, and I think that I'm just a little bit better than Squidward, but I'm not going to toot my own horn. Anyway, so I wanted to play the trumpet when I was young. Third grade, I got to select which instrument I would want for the year coming up. Trumpet was the first one that I selected. I didn't get chosen for it. I actually ended up being put with the saxophone. And I remember I was kind of actually disappointed when I was in fourth grade because I was like, well, this isn't the one that I wanted. Like, I'd chosen it as like a backup, but I wish that I was given the trumpet. And I was like, okay, well, saxophone, whatever. I know that it's kind of like a jazzy type instrument, is the way that I would think of it when I was young. And then I was handed it, the alto saxophone, by the time that I'm in fourth grade, and I start to play it. And for the longest time, I remember just being like, okay, well, this is just a thing that I have. This is just a thing that I'll play around with. Like, I'll mess with it because I have to in school. And I just never stopped with it. But like, I remember not taking to it for quite some time is the thing. Like, it took a couple of years. I played it through fourth grade, fifth grade, just it was kind of just there. It was just something that I did is really the best way that I can put it. So then go jumping ahead another year when I was in sixth grade. This is 2 years of playing the alto saxophone specifically. I remember once I got into middle school, I or actually before that, in fifth grade, I remember a kid in my band class who was my age. He was also playing alto sax, and then eventually he was just randomly swapped over to the tenor saxophone. And then another kid in my class was swapped over to the baritone saxophone. And I was just like, where do those guys get those saxophones that are a lot bigger? They're the only ones who are playing them in this band. And then I kind of got jealous. I would see what they were doing. I would see the ones that they were holding, and I also kind of wanted to just be unique, I guess, at that point going into middle school. So I was just like, man, I want to play the tenor saxophone for no reason other than just I wanted to be more unique than most of the kids in my band. I was like, even if there are two of us playing, that means that there are two tenors, but then there's still like eight or nine alto saxophones. So I want to be one of the cool kids who's playing the tenor saxophone. That's how my elementary school to middle school mind looked at it. But then once I got into sixth grade, I remember saying to my new music teacher at that time, I was just like, oh, would I ever be able to play the tenor saxophone? And we're in like a lesson at one point. She's just like, do you want to play it right now? And I was like, right now? I don't even know how to play the thing. She's like, oh, no, no, no. Like, it's the same notes as the alto saxophone. Let me just give you one and let's see how it feels. So then I was like, okay. Um, in my head, I'm just like, neat. Finally get to try out the tenor saxophone after like a year of wanting to at that point. So then she just brings one over and I set it up. I hold it. I'm like, wow, this thing is a lot bigger than the alto. And I still, even though she told me, hey, it plays the same, I'm just like, I don't know what I'm doing with this thing. Then I start to mess around with it. I'm like, oh, it sounds deeper, but the notes are all the same. So, okay, I got this. I'm a tenor sax master now. It's, again, like I was just silly child mind that I had at that point. But even then, like when I was in middle school and now on the tenor saxophone, now again, like in my head, I'm just like, hey, I'm one of the cool kids. I have a different saxophone than everyone else. I even then still wasn't like I want to say like dead set on music at all. And of course, like I was young. Like at this point, I'm maybe 12 years old, something like that. I'm not expecting or expected to like fully commit to something like that so soon or whatever. I was just again still like, hey, I'm playing this in school. I guess this is a thing that I'm doing. And I just kept it going for a long time. Now, flash forward to me in the present. What I didn't know when I was in middle school and elementary school, and then even part of high school, that probably would have actually gotten me more interested in music sooner was um, the ideas of like these music festivals and stuff, like music competitions and all that, that would have maybe stuck with me at an earlier age, like if I had started sooner than I did. Not no guarantee, of course, can't actually go back and see if that would have been the case. It could have actually worked in the opposite direction, but so NISMA, for example, the New York State School Music Association, I believe is what that stands for. I didn't know what NISMA was, NISMA or SCMEA, and I don't Suffolk County music. I don't know, something like it's whatever it was that it stood for. Someone can tell me what SCMIA stands for later on, but I would hear those abbreviations thrown around, and or acronyms, I guess would be the word. I'd hear those thrown around by friends of mine. They're like, "Oh yeah, I'm doing a level 2 Nisma solo. I'm doing a level 3 Nisma solo. Oh, I'm gonna be playing second chair in Scamia this year." And I was always like, "What is that?" But they never gave me a good answer. And me, as someone who still wasn't super fascinated in the idea of like making something out of music for myself, I never thought to bring it up to my music teachers either. My music teachers also never brought it up to me, or maybe they did, and I just don't remember. Honestly, that's more likely, I figure. But I was just like, okay, well, if you say that you're doing Nisma, then good for you. You're doing Nisma. You're doing Scamia. That's a thing that you're doing for sure. And I just kept going along with it. Didn't realize that there was something that, again, potentially would have struck a chord with me when I was that young. That I just had no idea what it was. I didn't know how to do it, didn't know how to go about it. So on I pressed through middle school. Now I get into high school a couple years later and playing in the jazz band and the concert band at this point. And then in the high school, I learned of the symphonic band. I didn't know what symphonic band was. I didn't know what the difference was between a concert band. All that I knew was that me and my again early high school mind, I was like, oh, all the cool kids seem to be in symphonic bands, so I should get into that, shouldn't I? This is actually how I was thinking back then. And so then I start talking to my high school band teacher, and I was like, "Hey, what is symphonic band? Like, what? When are these rehearsals that take place? What are these songs that they're playing?" I remember they were rehearsing a song that featured like music from video games, and like I remember Kingdom Hearts, like the theme from Kingdom Hearts, "Simple and Clean," was one of the ones that was part of that video game medley, and I'm just like, "What? They're playing that in symphonic band, and all I'm left with is non-video game related stuff." So again, at this point now, I'm feeling like offended. I'm like, "Wow, you guys are getting to do this cool stuff." Or stuff that was cool to me at the very least. And I'm not. How do I get into symphonic band? So then I realized I'm like, okay, well, they got in because they have done NISMA, they've auditioned, they are stronger players, they've proven that they're stronger players, and I didn't know what an audition was. I was like, what do you mean I got an audition? For a class? For a band class and stuff? And this was the point when I started to think more seriously about music. So symphonic band back in high school, again, like it wasn't anything crazy that you would have to do, and like not even all that crazily different from the concert band. But to me, this is when I started to think like, oh wow, well, I've been playing music for several years. It's never been like my favorite thing to do, but it's a thing that I at the time I took a bit of pride in. I was like, okay, well, I feel like I'm pretty good at this, so why shouldn't I be able to be in the symphonic band? Don't know what NISMA is, don't know what anything else is, but I don't think that I need to. And my band teacher agreed. She was like, no, it has nothing to do with NISMA. Just you will audition, just play some of this music against these others who are playing the same thing, and I'm gonna evaluate, see which of you would be able to get the spots in symphonic band. I was like, all right, cool. So I did that end of my freshman year in high school, get into the symphonic band for the sophomore year, and I'm like, all right, cool. So this is my biggest achievement ever. And little did I know, again, like this is like barely even an achievement looking back, but it was something that was good for me. Like that's the thing that's most important there. But so now, say 10th grade, I'm in the symphonic band. I'm just like, oh yeah, like, this is fun. I'm with more of my friends who are also strong musicians and all that type of stuff. We weren't playing video game music that year, and that made me sad. But I was like, okay, I don't care. They'll listen to Simple and Clean when I get home later today or something like that. That's kind of where I was at. But so later into my sophomore year of high school, that's when I'm introduced to the idea of like it was called what was called the Mid Island Band Festival, Long Island music festival in which high school students from around the island were selected to be part of this ensemble. At least that's what I remember it being, or something like that. And I was selected to be part of that on tenor sax, and I was like blown away. I'm just like, really? Like I was nominated for this thing, and now I'm going to be playing in this thing. again, like something that's like looking back, it's not like even like the biggest achievement, but for me at like 15, 16 years old, again, like this was nuts for me because I had never done anything like that before. And I was like super excited, got to go and meet musicians from other schools and stuff like that, and across like two or three rehearsals, put together like a whole concert's worth of music and stuff. Like it was like the most fun that I had had. Then later that same year, first time that I did NISMA and stuff. So I'm just like, okay, yeah. I'm really starting to get into this whole idea of music. I don't want to keep this like too like long-winded or anything like that. But basically, just to like cut to the chase a little bit over like this whole story and stuff like that. By the middle to end of high school was when I was like, okay, I am definitely fascinated in music. I have been, I've shown myself and shown others that it's something that, again, not to toot my own horn, but it was something that I was pretty good at that point. And again, I can be proud of my achievements and stuff. I wasn't amazing, and there's always room for improvement, but it was something that I realized I could consider long term. So then by the end of high school, and once I'm going into college, it became more and more apparent that, hey, I should probably I should probably study this to see what I can do with it and see how far I can take it. And then cutting ahead to now, again, we're in 2025. It's been almost 10 years since graduating high school, 5 years since graduating college. Again, now I'm graduate, bachelor's graduate, yeah, but like still graduate with a degree in music performance and minor in music business. And I've been working as a private teacher for a handful of years and all that type of stuff, getting to play in community bands and brought in to be professional in certain ensembles and all that type of stuff. And it's really crazy when I think of it in those terms to look back or to even just reflect and be like, wow, all this from a at the time a 9-year old who didn't even want to play the saxophone, wanted to play the trumpet, and probably wouldn't have stuck with it. Just being real, I probably would not have kept going. Maybe I would have, but it's hard to say. But just to think back and think that the saxophone was really just like an afterthought for me when I was in elementary and middle school for a while, and then it became like part of my career. Like so far, like one of the main parts of my career at this point. And like there's still room to grow and all that type of stuff. And then again, like I said before, clarinet came into the picture, flute came into the picture, piccolo even came into the picture, and some other instruments and stuff. So at this point, again, it's just like I'm in it for the long haul with my music and I don't plan on stopping. So that said, I think that this would be a pretty solid spot for me to cap off this episode tonight. So again, like this is very possibly going to be the first episode of whatever series this is that I'm aiming to start. Again, I don't want to keep saying that it's something that I might post, I might not post. Again, like this one, I feel solid about this. And again, like you got to start somewhere. Like the idea that I worry too much about like what others think. That has gotten in the way of me starting other things. And I don't know what this thing in particular is shaping up to be for me. But again, I really just want to be able to just lay back or kick back and just relax and talk about stuff that's important to me or stuff that I think is fun or whatever. And if people are along to listen to what I have to say for however long I choose to, then hey, that's kind of the added bonus right there. So again, if and when, I will say when, but if and when I do end up putting this up somewhere, if you ended up listening, I really appreciate your time. I really, really do. If you only chimed in for a handful of seconds to minutes or something like that, appreciate your time nonetheless. Just listening to this goofball over here just talk for a long time about stuff that pertains to him and really not to anyone else. But for me, that's the most important thing. As long as it's something I want to do, it's something that I'll probably end up doing. So, gonna call it a wrap right here. Thanks so much if you did listen, and I'll be back with another one of these pretty soon. Take care, guys.